So one of the main reasons why I personally use a credit card for almost everything I buy is for the option of disputing the charge if I'm not happy with a purchase, especially nowadays when you buy online and you can't touch or feel the item. Before you buy it, the feeling of knowing that if you're not happy with the purchase and you'll be able to dispute it and get back your money, and I guess in the case that the merchant does not want to refund you, yeah, that feeling of peace of mind is something that's undisputable. So yeah, I'm so happy to finally have Brian join us and clarify a lot of questions that our readers sent in regarding credit card disputes. It took us a long time to get Brian on board, but I'm happy we finally did. So thank you so much, Brian, for joining us and answering our readers' questions. Just before we get started, Brian, if you don't mind introducing yourself to our readers, some type of quick introduction.
Yeah, I've been an attorney since 1998. It was more general civil litigation, but it switched to business litigation about 5 years ago, and that was when I first was really introduced to the payment processing ecosystem, and right away just got a firsthand seat of all the bad behavior that seemingly runs unchecked, unregulated. Nobody's looking at anything, and I've also come to realize that. The loser in this is always going to be the merchant because everybody else has to get their piece of you guys. And so any attempt by the merchant to kind of redirect things and have the money come back to your pocket is going to be a challenge because you guys have a lot of mouths to feed. And I totally respect the decision you've made and the efforts you've made. And I'm committed to doing whatever I can to make your life.
What do you see as common mistakes that consumers make when initiating a chargeback or a dispute?
Not providing sufficient information. Basically, it's just the default on the entities is usually not to grant the chargeback, just simply because banks and ISOs are notoriously risk averse, and so they don't want chargebacks. And in fact, if a merchant gets too many chargebacks, they're going to have problems. But they're going to have problems with the credit card company. So you really got to have your ducks in a row. And if it's friendly fraud, which is where somebody stays at a kind of timeshare for a week and then tries to charge it back, that's not going to work. And 9 times out of 10. So you really need to have your ducks in a row because the merchant is going to come back, with a rebuttal, and you're not going to get a chance to respond. So it's really basically you got to get it all in one shot. You got to give it your best shot. So you got to.
The consumer did, as you said, and submitted the dispute with evidence and everything, but they feel that there's no human reviewing the dispute. It's just being reviewed by a robot, and no one is really looking at their evidence. What could they do to escalate it and get human eyes on their dispute with someone seriously taking their dispute seriously and reviewing it properly?
Well, like I said, it's your own bank making the determination. So I mean, the buck stops with them. So I would just be hammering the issuing bank for an explanation of why the determination was made. And if you have to hire legal counsel, basically the main reason you would hire an attorney in this situation is that we will get you to the bank's or whoever's legal department. The merchant is never going to talk to a lawyer. Most lawyers, not present company accepted, most lawyers won't even talk to a merchant. They'll only talk to another lawyer, and they're the only ones that are really going to take it seriously because they're going to have to look at their terms and conditions and look at how it coincides with the chargeback process, and they're going to be able to say, hey, we have a real problem here. You need to take a look at this, and that is the benefit that an attorney provides.
If a consumer ended up losing the dispute, but he still thinks he's right, is there any additional action that you could take?
Well, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, I always advise my clients to initiate a small claims action. A lot of times, the other side is not prepared for that. And in addition, you can't have a lawyer in a small claims action. So the rules governing these proceedings, they're much more lax because they know they're dealing with lay people. So I'm always in favor of them just going into small claims. Maybe just even serving the merchant is going to push them to actually settle it because they don't want to go to court. They don't want to judge the role, and then you can also get all your costs and fees for having to bring the action, which is another reason why you need to build a record of your attempts to contact the merchant. Because the more times that you show the judge that you've contacted the merchant and they've ignored you, the more likely you're going to get your costs. Because but for the merchant stonewalling you, you would not have to have had to go to these great lengths. And so 9 times out of 10, the court is going to rule in your favor and award you your costs. So it's a win-win.
Right. And obviously, if it's a big amount that is dispute regards a big dollar amount, you should reach out to an attorney that might be able to help.
Yeah. I mean, well, like I said, in California, the limit is $10,000 or $10,000. So I mean that gives you a lot of leeway. But
for small claims court.
In small claims court.
Right.
And again, the beauty of the small claims action is
What are the reasons why consumers could initiate a chargeback?
The main reasons for the chargeback is just that either the product wasn't ever delivered, did not conform with the way that it was advertised, was not the same product that they bought. Or they never even made the purchase at all. Those are from what I see the main ones. And if you stick to those, I think you're going to have the most success. It's when you get cute with the reason, it just creates more questions for you and more reasons for them not to approve your chargeback.
Right. So you're saying the less you write, the better.
Pretty much, what you write is, for all intents and purposes, not really going to be relevant. It's all about the paper. If or the documentary evidence. I mean, because otherwise, it's just you or me saying it, and they're not going to take your word for it when they already don't want to do this in the first place.
Right. Let's use an example that one of my followers sent in, but there's a lot of similar questions that I got. Let's say if I ordered a carpet cleaner to clean my carpet and they left a stain. So I'm not happy with their service provided. Is that a reason I should be able to dispute the charge?
I'll give you the lawyer response. It depends. I would think that the bank would want to know first, did you bring this to the merchant, or are you just like straight chargebacking the whole thing?
Right. So you're saying the recommended first step is always going first to the merchant.
Because in all these situations, like again, honestly, the default reaction is to say nothing. So if you have evidence of the fact that you reached out to this merchant like several times and they just won't respond to you, then that is going to be a point in your favor when they're just ignoring you, because it's almost like an admission of guilt.
Right.
It's like I always advise my clients, don't ever stay silent in situations like this, because silence will be interpreted as, you're up to something or you're in the wrong. People are all in these kind of situations. They're always going to believe the worst. But if you get out in front of it and show that you're trying to handle it on your own without initiating a chargeback, I think you're going to get a lot farther. And you're going to do what attorneys call building a record, and that is the most important part of this process.
Right. Like people say, when something happens, you create the story. Don't let other people create the story for you. If you keep quiet, then everybody's going to make up their own stories.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right. And in the case that the merchant did respond, let's use our carpet cleaner, for example, and they said, listen, we tried our best, we cleaned the carpet, we didn't see any stains when we left, it's kind of too bad, we're not giving you a refund.
Well, I think that a responsible merchant in that situation would probably take pictures of the job before they leave, so that they can guard against things like this. And then again, it's it would be your word versus the merchant. And if the merchant is just not complying or responding or willing to work with you, I think that you're absolutely justified in killing the whole deal.
Right, right. And another example, which is very similar, but again, today people order things online. You ordered something, it was delivered late. You were promised it would be delivered within 2 days, and it didn't come till after 3 days. Can I just dispute the charge and get back my money?
If they have a stated delivery time in their paperwork, like you will have this within like 3 to 5 days, 2 weeks, and it goes like way beyond that, absolutely. Because from your standpoint, the product was not delivered as advertised, and so you don't have to keep something that did not comply with what your understanding of the transaction was.
Right.
You're not obligated to take one for the team on this one. You're more than justified in charging it back.
Right. I think the
legal not with what your understanding of it was, charge it back.
Right.
Well, first contact the merchant, but then then if all else you got the fallback of the chargeback.
Right. I think the legal term for that is goods or services not received as agreed, and that I guess covers any point of what we agreed that wasn't delivered as agreed.
Yeah, look at your receipt, because I'm sure there's terms and conditions or a link to a terms and conditions of the sale within that. Probably not a lot of customers know that. It really is a question of the fine print, and so just pay attention to what you're receiving back from the merchant in addition to the product or service that you're
Talking about terms and conditions and small print, is it an excuse to say, listen, nobody reads terms and conditions. I was assuming one thing. I know it says differently in the terms and conditions, but everybody knows that consumers don't read terms and conditions, and I still didn't understand. I still understand it that way. I thought it's the other way. Is that a legal excuse, or you're required to read the terms and conditions, and if you didn't read it, you're at fault?
That again, that depends. Depends on the circumstances, because my assumption is that especially when you're making an online purchase, you have to click, something that says, I understand the terms and conditions and I'm agreeing to them.
But everybody just clicks it. No one reads it.
Exactly. So, we're talking about contract versus the real world, and so it's going to be subjective. Some people are going to be smart and say, this isn't worth it. I'm not interested in. I mean, even myself personally, I'm not interested in having a client who says a bunch of awful things about me. I would rather just return their money and have an opportunity to get their business in the future, as opposed to just taking a hard line on something that maybe costs like $100. Is that really worth it? And now you're going to have a angry consumer who's never going to work with you again. And as I've seen, they're going to probably give you a bunch of negative reviews. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. We're not talking about huge sums of money here. And in the scope, in the grand scheme of things, I think it would be smarter of the merchant just to refund the consumer and take back the product.
Right, but is it in any way like a legal claim to say that no one reads terms and conditions and the merchant knew that? Or
I make that claim. I make that argument all the time. I mean, the card brands, MasterCard and Visa and whoever, they have mandated in their rules that you have to educate. You have to educate the merchant when they're setting up for payment processing. You have to educate the consumer as to what's going to happen. And so a lot of merchants just think that as long as they put like a hyperlink in a contract that, again, they know nobody's going to read, that they've done their duty. They've met the standard, and that's just not reality. And that's an argument I make all the time.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows that the customer's not going to go to some hyperlink and read some 30-page document when they're buying a laptop or I mean, it's way too much work and not enough reward. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's a question I'm comfortable making all.
Right.
Based on your experience, which bank do you find to be the most consumer friendly when it comes to chargebacks?
I would have to say it would be American Express because they're the ones that I've had the most success, getting them to review a chargeback denial or a chargeback approval because I've handled this on both sides. I found them really willing to work with me. MasterCard to some degree, I've had a couple of successes with them, but Visa right now is proving to be the hardest to deal with.
Just a final question. If I win a dispute, can the merchant still demand that I pay them directly? So, in other words, the bank said that the consumer is right and disputed the charge. It happens that the merchant then goes and reaches out to the consumer and say, "Hey, the charge was disputed, but I still want you to pay." It often happens with car rentals.
Sure, but are they going to? No. I mean, when a chargeback happens, it's not that the card is saying that the debt is valid or not valid. They're just saying we don't want to be involved with it. So we're stepping out. We're reversing the charge. You guys work it out amongst yourselves. Now, if we're talking about a $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 chargeback, maybe it's worth it to them to take legal action against you. But again, there's and I don't want to be promoting friendly fraud here. But the smaller the amount, the more likely they're just not gonna. They're not. It's not worth it to them to come after you. They may try. They may ask you, but unless you get served with papers, I would just ignore it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much, Bryce, for your time. And Bryce, if anyone is in need of your service, how could they reach out to you?
Just go to our website, globallegallawfirm.com, or I can provide you my email address if you want.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Bryce, for your time. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. Thank you.